Hello, everyone. Charles here. It's November 25th, 2016, what we now call Black Friday. And I want to welcome everyone, especially those new subscribers, and there's quite a few. Just to name a few is Stephen Patrick, River 945661. Welcome. Mr. White Owl 141. Welcome. James Harder. Rosalind DiCanio, I hope I got that right. Anyway, welcome. James Qualls, Janet Newham, Ida Kinsella, Thomas Brown, John De Palma, Anthony Daines, Carmen Morella, Monarch 1011, etc., Greenfield, the Gadfly 12, etc. I want to welcome you all. And I know you've got a lot of other things to do, and you want to get as much information as you can in the least amount of time. And I know that I'm a slow speaker. I have my Moses moments. So I wanted to bring you to this little trick here. If you don't already know it, it's on your settings button. You can click here and see the speed, normal. You can make it go to 125 like that, or even quicker. You can, but anyway, if you want to speed me up a bit, that's one way you can do it. Back in May of 2015, I came out with this article here, going public with the idea, I went public with my thinking that the world is not a spinning spear. And as you can see here, it's 5/14/2015. I looked into it for a couple of weeks, and actually, quite frankly, it didn't take me long to come to the conclusion that the world is not a spinning spear. But ever since then, I've been looking for evidence that would show me I was wrong. So for the last year and a half, I've been looking at articles. I've been looking for other bits and pieces of evidence that would show that I'm in error. And even though I don't want to go into it right now, I recently took the technician's exam to become a ham radio operator. I'm now licensed to stutter and stammer on the airways. And my call sign is KI7IJS, and that's going to translate into Kilo India 7 India Juliet Sierra. I'm going to have to get that in my subconscious mind, but I will over time. Anyway, and the evidence that I found while I was studying for the test is there's nothing in the radio wave or the electromagnetic field waves, radio waves, that would indicate to me that we are not living on a level, non-spinning Earth. But I'll go into that. I'm working on something now, and I'll go into that later. But today, I wanted to show you something else that just helps confirm that we are not living on a spinning spear. Oh, well, one last thing about the radio waves. Some of the members in the classroom were telling me that you can bounce the waves off of the moon, and you get an echo back. And the one guy, this is kind of a prelude to a video I'll do in the future, I hope, if I get to it. One of the fellows said that you could bounce radio waves off of the moon. And I said, well, how far does a radio wave travel? And he says, well, I'm not going to go into that. You'll have to wait until later. But I'll come out here soon with some more evidence in support of a flat Earth in some other video on the radio waves, but let's move on. I'm interested now in looking at satellites. Some people say they don't exist, and other people swear that they're out there and there's pictures, so let's have a look at that, shall we? So I just went on a search and I found this, just to give you an idea of, it doesn't say how many satellites are out there, but you can see by the picture here that there's quite a bit out there, and they're telling us in 2005 up here in the corner, at least 13 nuclear reactor fuel cores, 8 thermonuclear generators, and 32 nuclear reactors was known to be in Earth orbits below 1,700 kilometers, which is about 1,000 feet. Oldest debris. It goes in here. I won't read all this, but you can come back if you're interested. But anyway, they let us know that they want us to believe that there are basically hundreds of satellites, old and new, and other debris in space out there all flying around. They even have a glove. This is all propaganda, folks, but before I leave this, back when I was going to college in 71 through 75, I went to look up, because I was a pupil of Dr. Stuart Crane, and for one of his lectures, Dr. Stuart Crane, you might be interested in what he taught. So let me bring you to his information here now. Please hold on. Okay, here we are back at my website, charlesfolkert.com. If you scroll down to the bottom here, he knew where we were headed. We are there now. But anyway, you can click on this link, and that'll get you to the information that I had back in the early 80s. The few hours you could spend with Dr. Crane will be well worth your time. He was a professor of economics at Bob Jones University. That was before they became 501c3. That was when in the 1970s and in the early 80s, Bob Jones University prohibited mixed race dating, and it was only when they became a 501c licensed institution that they were forced to change that policy. So in my lifetime, there was a college here in the United States, Bob Jones University, that you could not race mix and be a part of their school. We've come a long way. Anyway, let's go back to the Sputnik. When I was in Humboldt State University, I distinctly remember, after listening to Dr. Crane, I went to the library and I looked up Sputnik. And this is the honest-to-God truth. When I looked in the book, the evidence that they had, or the picture they had, the propaganda they had, was a cosmonaut on one knee in the field with a missile laying on the ground behind him. And I look back at that. Even then, I was incredulous. How in the world does a missile end up on the ground? But back then, that was the level of the propaganda. And I think we would all admit that things have gotten a little more complex since then. They've gotten more sophisticated in their propaganda. But back then, that would have been in the early 1970s, mid-1970s, I became very suspect of the idea that we landed on the moon. And so from the mid-70s, I didn't believe that we landed on the moon. I didn't have any proof. I didn't have any much more than that. But it didn't add up. We did not have the technology in 1969 to make it to the moon and back. It's all a hoax, folks. Anyway, here we are back. As you can see, there's hundreds satellites up in space and a bunch of junk, which brings me to the next point here. And that is Pentagon personnel on site to investigate loose blimp. This was back in October 29, 2015. And you scroll down here, some 40 personnel from the home base of the military blimp that broke loose Wednesday are now on the site where it landed, U.S. military official told CNN. Now here's what's important. The blimp, associated with NORAD's surveillance of the East Coast, became untethered from its mooring station at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. The blimp is in two major pieces, split between the tail and the rest of the aerostat, according to Army Captain Matthew Villa. The blimp landed Wednesday afternoon in the northeast Pennsylvania, according to NORAD, which described the landing site as a rugged, wooded area. The loose J-lens blimp had been in the air over Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, and caused power outage before it came down. Raytheon, which produces the J-lens, short for Joint Land Attack Cruise Missile Defense Elevated Nested Sensor System. They always like to come up with these names. You know, Americans are so good at that. Their propaganda is top notch, isn't it? And anyway, here's the question, folks. If our military, you know what? Wait a minute. And I want to point out that I don't usually use Google only as a last resort, but on these type of videos, I like to use Google because it shows you the propaganda. And here we have, I just did a Google search, satellites over Earth. And you got to be very careful here because usually the first thing they show you is their propaganda. But anyway, here's what they say. They say 50% of which were launched by the United States. Half of that 10,071, so it was about 500 were launched by the United States. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Here we are back at that blimp article, CNN. If we got 500 satellites, and you know quite a bit of those, or quite a few of those, are put up there by the military, if not all of them, and why in the world did it need blimps? You know, I don't get it. These are expensive. And look at what happens when they break loose. The Army is launching 2 stationary blimps at 10,000 feet over Maryland to better protect the Washington District of Criminals area from cruise missiles and other possible air attacks. Why do we need blimps if we got all these satellites in the air over us? And hey, we got technology to go all the way to the moon and back, and now we're out Mars, and you know, and come on, what do we need blimps for? I don't know when the first blimp went up, but what was it, in the 1800s? I'm going to look for that. I tell you, once you start looking into this stuff, it's pretty easy to see behind there, or beyond there, or through their hoax. Here's the airship. Again, Wikipedia. I don't like Wikipedia, but in these cases, they're good to look at. Look at this. Airships were the first aircraft capable of controlled power flight and were most commonly used before the 1940s. But their use decreased over time as their capabilities were surpassed by those of aeroplanes. Their decline was accelerated by a series of high-profile accidents, including the 1930 crash and burning of the British R-101 in France, the 1933 and 1935 storm-related crashes of the twin airborne aircraft carrier U.S. Navy filled blah, 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 the Hindenburg. Okay, from the 1960s, helium airships have been used in applications where the ability to hover in one place for an extended period outweighs the need for speed. and maneuverability such as advertising, tourism, camera platform, geological surveys, and aerial observation. They don't say anything about being used by NORAD. Anyway, I don't want to get off too far, but if we've got all of these high-tech satellites, and we got more than one over certain areas of the country, I'm sure, redundancy, then how come we need a balloon or a blimp? So these are hooked up to the Earth by the use of tether. And the tether is made of Vactran and has withstood storms in excess of 100 knots. At the time of their launch, the company said the 242-foot-long aerostats would be tethered to the ground by super strong cables. And the tethering system was designed to withstand 100 miles per hour. They can stay up for 30 days at a time. The aerostats carry technology that almost doubles the reach of current ground radar detection. Officials connected with the project said at the time of the launch. Blah, blah, blah. So here we are at Popular Science. One more little thing to look at. Now, why would Popular Science want to lie to us, right? Here we go. See all the satellites and space junk circling the Earth in real time. And then they give you this. You know what? I hate them pop-ups. Everything, everywhere you go anymore now. You got stuff popping up you don't want to see. But anyway, this is supposed to be able to track all the junk in real time. But again, here's my question. If NORAD has satellites all over North America, and I did a search here again in Google, and this is what I came up. You can see it. NORAD satellites over North America, and look what we get. We get pictures of Santa Claus. And then we get these computer-generated images, CGI. And folks, and we got North Korea. I lived in South Korea for 5 years. I could tell you quite a bit about what's going on there, but that'll have to wait. But anyway, it's a joke, folks. It's a big joke. These people don't have one satellite in space. At least that's my opinion. Nothing that I've seen since May 15th has changed my mind about whether or not we live on a level, non-spinning sphere. Well, that'll be it for today. And again, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. It's pretty interesting to see how things are working out. The mainstream media is losing it. Several months back, I said that we were winning, that the mainstream media is in a panic. These people are in a panic, and I think that's beginning to play out. Now these people are telling us the reason that Trump won is all the fake news sites, when I've just shown you several of their fake sites and their propaganda, and they're accusing us of what they do. I appreciate you watching. I wish you the best. See ya.
Read my lips. No new taxes. I will keep America moving forward, always forward, for a better America, for an endless, enduring dream and 1,000 points of light.
Because you'd be in jail. Because you'd be in jail. But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.